I have a problem with something that it's like a problem that is increasing constantly, and it's something that like it's persistent in my life. It's because I've been watching a lot of podcasts, and it's a sponsor that everybody's heard of. Everybody seems to like, and I would love if they sponsored us, but it's the ads that they are now doing for this like service that I'm like, this is too much.
So like
do you want to guess who it is? Because I'm gonna say who it is.
It's like, I'm assuming I've been seeing a bunch of like online betting platforms lot lately.
Nope.
So it's not one of them.
Nope.
Well, then who is it?
It's Rocket Money, because everybody's like, yeah. At first, they'd be like, yeah, I had a lot of unwanted subscriptions I didn't even know I was paying for. If you don't know what Rocket Money is, this is not sponsored by Rocket Money, but Rocket Money is a platform that basically will help you keep track of your bills and renegotiate bills and things like that, and helps with your credit and things like that.
I've heard of other services like them, but like I have seen an ad where they're like, if you they go through, you give them access to your bank account or like your credit card statements. Yeah. And then they're like, oh, here are reoccurring charges. Yes. And they point them out to you as like subscriptions you may have forgotten about. I've seen other services where, like you said, they renegotiate your bill. So like, I think my brother used it one time, not that service, but another one where it was like, basically our internet bill was gonna go up, and so he was like, yeah, I'm just gonna pay to use this service. They renegotiate your bill for you, and then you just pay them like a smaller portion of like the difference between your new rate versus your so
the whole thing seems nice, right? And I've heard of Rocket Money forever, so this is this isn't really a Rocket Money platform like as a service like annoyance. It's the ads, it's the promotion of it. So I'm gonna tell you the exact examples that have pissed me off. Okay. So at first it's like, yeah, I had a lot of subscriptions I forgot about, which it's like, okay, yeah, maybe like a streaming service, or like Viz Media was one I had that was like $2.99 a month. That's something you could easily not notice. Let me tell you something. People now on these ads are like, yeah, man, and they're totally just ads. There's one ad in particular where it's two guys and they're like set up as a podcast. It's not a podcast. It's literally an ad for Rocket Money, which is fine, but they're sitting there right here. He's here, another guy's here, and one guy's like, yeah, Rocket Money helped me like remember that we had like a meal kit service that we've been paying for like a year, and we weren't even using it anymore, and it was getting like sent to the other address because we had moved. How fucking rich do you have to be to forget you have a fucking monthly recurring like food service, like a food delivery service? That's like,
those aren't cheap.
That's not something you would just not notice. And you moved, and you're telling me
you didn't update your address on everything.
You're telling me that the people that took your old house, they were just accepting the food
and not return to sender.
Yeah, they didn't return it, or they didn't. Hey, we don't live here, or these people don't live here anymore. You're telling me that's what you're going to try to say. None of that logically makes sense. That's a stupid script. That script is stupid. That is the dumbest script ever. It is just, and then Theo Von did it on his podcast. I love Theo Von, surprisingly. Like, I actually really like him. And he had one where he goes, I had it. It's Theo, so obviously it's like kind of a joke. He talked about a chili service, and man, and that chili just kept getting sent to somebody else's house. I'm like, no, it didn't, Theo. No, it didn't. And you're a comedian, so it's kind of funny. It's different because like you're like trying to be funny, right? But I had just seen another thing about the exact same thing. So like I just saw this ad before. So now I'm like, this is the script Rocket Money is pushing for people to say.
Wow.
And I'm like, this is stupid. The whole idea of Rocket Money makes sense. So I'm not a Rocket Money hater. It's nothing like that. It's just that particular script. You're going to tell me you just forgot you had like a grocery service? That's what you're going to try to convince me. Those are expensive. And if you're that rich, fuck you. Then you shouldn't be, then you don't need no sponsored Rocket Money video.
I don't know if it's people are that rich. It could be people are that either irresponsible with their spending or they're oblivious to
Those
it
are like
intentionally.
Hundreds of dollars, or at least $100 a month. I'm getting overdrafted, dude. I'm getting overdrafted. If I have a monthly service I don't use, it's $7. But then I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, the meal delivery ones are kind of expensive.
They're so expensive for you not to notice, dude.
Yeah.
And you're telling me, because this is what makes no sense. So say if you didn't move, right? Then you're getting it delivered to you all the time, like once a week. So obviously, you're getting it.
Unless someone is chronically stealing your packages from your porch when you're not home. And that would be so funny.
That's not an out of sight, out of mind subscription. That Rocket Money's whole thing could be an out of sight, out of mind subscription. A meal kit is not an out of sight, out of mind subscription because even if you're super comfortable with your money, you're still getting it delivered to your home. So it's like, knock, 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 here's your food. Like, doesn't make any sense. You're paying for it.
A better script would be, because something like you said, a couple dollars a month, you may not notice. But I mean, I had a subscription to Audible once for like years that I forgot about, and it was I think less than $20 a month.
Yeah, Kindle Unlimited, I've had that happen before where I'm like, oh shit, this is like $12.99 for like a year. What is this?
And you just forget about it. And I had a bunch of credits collecting up, and I was like, oh well, I'll go use them, but then I'm gonna use the credits I have, but then cancel the service because I just forgot. Yeah. So I could a better script would probably be like did I signed up for this one streaming service because let's face it, that's probably the thing you sign up for the most that you forget about is you signed up for Amazon, not Amazon Prime, because you use that to buy stuff. But you signed up for Disney Plus, or you signed up for Hulu, or you signed up for HBO Max, and Apple TV. You signed up for it because you wanted to watch this one specific show that House of the Dragon was on, and everyone was talking about it, and you couldn't be left out. So you got that subscription so you could watch the show, and then you know what? You just forgot about it, and then you ended up paying for it for however many months, and you just forgot you had it. That's where Rocket Money comes in.
And that could happen 3 or 4 times. Mm-hmm. Right? Like those tiny little ones are a lot less alarming on your statement versus this $100 charge for somebody who's coming to your house once a week to deliver you groceries. So that's my biggest, but my pet peeve at this point is anytime I see somebody advertising Rocket Money, if they do it in a normal way, that's like, hey, this is what Rocket Money does, and they talk about all that, I'm like, yeah, bet.
It's specifically when it's a bigger budget subscription and it's a physical product that's supposed to be delivered.
That doesn't make any sense. Do better. Do better, Rocket Money. And if you want to sponsor us, let us know.
Hey, we'll come up with some good.
We got you. You don't even need to send us a script.
No, we got you.
We got it.
Yeah,
we got it.
Honestly, I think that adds on like podcasts in that format where you're trying to make it more of like a native, like personalized to the people. Like it's coming more natural from the people delivering the ad. I feel like it's better if you just send them the rough bullet points and like the talking points and just let them kind of do what they do and talk about it in a way that is like organic to them.
I like
or their experience with the product or service.
I like Bad Friends when they do theirs. They have one sponsor in particular called Blue Chew, which is basically Viagra. And Bobby Lee's like, oh yeah, I use it, dude. Oh yeah. So it's very funny. But yeah, sometimes I'm like and nothing to like, some people just aren't really comfortable kind of putting their own spin on things, but like some people that just read the ad verbatim, I'm like, I get it. You got to say this because you're sponsored, but come on.
I'm like, I know that you know that there is a way to deliver this that's a little more natural.
Yeah, but anyway, that was that's been annoying me, and I decided to save it specifically for our comeback.
And with that, roll the intro. Let's talk about Hitler.
That'll make sense later.
I'm immaculately conceived.
I don't know what to do.
I swear I'm not stupid.
Take it or leave it. Sometimes you just want to leave it.
If I gotta borrow my mom's underwear, I'm borrowing her underwear.
You just, yeah.
Misa likes the Jar Jar Binks.
I'm not gonna edit it out.
Oh no.
I don't know. Like I think I'm just pretty great. Just saying on the planet.
Suck.
Why are you saying it with a question mark?
Clap, bitch.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Action.
And we're live. I'm Anna.
And I'm Jessica.
And this is Why Are You Yelling? Welcome to season 4.
Yeah. It's been a minute, guys, but honestly, welcome back.
Yeah. We took a little break and now we're back. Yeah. And we're ready to entertain you. We're entertaining the masses.
Yes. This is a new squirrel. He's the Halloween squirrel. He is very evil. I don't know if anybody can see. He literally
hold up your hand behind him.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, he's very, very evil looking.
He's very diabolical.
And I bought it because Anna loves squirrels.
I hate squirrels. For those who don't know, squirrels are evil. They're demonic Satan creatures.
Yeah, if you're new here, Anna loves squirrels. This is from the Dollar Tree. I've been on a Dollar Tree kick.
The 5-quarter store, as it were.
Yes. Oh my God. Whew, it's been so. We bought a house last year and we had like no decorations for anything. And the biggest decoration we had is Travis surprised me with a Christmas tree because I was really depressed. And then I came home, we had a Christmas tree, but there was nothing else, but that was it. But that was fine. And so this year I was like, I'm having some kind of holiday cheer in this fucking house. So I looked up so many. Well, it kind of was organic. Like TikTok, I don't really get on TikTok that much anymore because I'm mostly on Instagram now. But when I got on TikTok, that's like the DIY thing. Mm-hmm. Like Instagram is for my funnies. If some informational type thing is more gonna be for TikTok, not like news, but like, DIY stuff. And I just saw all these Dollar Tree DIYs for Halloween and fall, and I was like, fucking bet. I have found that certain Dollar Tree or dollar store crafts, like DIY decor, it's hit or miss. Oh, for sure.
Because sometimes it looks about as cheap as it is. Yeah. But then other times it's like, oh, this is pretty good. And
just don't touch it.
Yeah. Or it'll fall apart.
Well, it's more like if you don't touch, like, so I bought, they have these foam pumpkins out right now. They're super cheap looking. But I did chalk. So I put baking soda in with some paint. So it would have that ceramic look. And I painted the pumpkin. Like I saw somebody do that. And then I had bought specific like florals from Dollar Trees to put on top. So it looks more like a vase kind of a thing. And that turned out like okay. But just don't touch it because it's super light because it's foam. Yeah,
you'll know.
But if you look at it, it looks, just don't touch it.
But who's going into somebody's house touching the... You're touching people's decor.
I don't go to anyone's house. So
I'm like, really?
No, I'm not doing that. For multiple reasons. Your house, I would. I'd be like, what's this? Mostly because I'm like, well, that's different when it's your best friend. I can just do whatever I want. I can just walk in and not even tell you I'm coming.
Yeah.
I would never do that. Unless I was trying to like surprise you with something. But that's just a lot of effort right now. But yeah, so that's what I've been like all weekend. I've just been really into. And I only sent one picture of the Halloween stuff. I did way more. Oh. I built a truck.
You built a truck.
It sounds harder than what I really did.
Oh, okay.
Dollar Tree has these like truck cutout things, and I bought 2 of them, and then they have little wooden crates, and so I made a truck by gluing it together, and I put pumpkins and all this stuff. I painted the truck.
That's cute.
And I painted it red, and the thing like kind of because it had railings that were silver, and then I painted the tires black, but white wall tires, so then they're white around. Because Travis was like, "You should do white wall tires," and I did, and
that's cute.
It is what it is. It's cute. Just don't stare at it too long. But
you see the seams.
You just see, you're like, that's hot glue. I got burnt. One of my fingers is burnt from hot glue. Because, yeah, that shit gets for real. That hurts. And there's probably gloves for that. I bet you the super, like, it's still kind of hard.
Oh. Did you, well,
it looks like it's
Did you
cut.
wait until it dried before you tried to peel it off?
I don't know.
Or rub it off?
I just got hurt. It's not wax. It also looks like I cut myself again. Yeah. So that was what I've been up to lately. It was a lot of DIYs.
Oh, we were talking earlier before we started recording. So I cut my thumb when I was washing dishes. I cut them on a pair of tongs.
Of all things. The most important kitchen utensil.
Yeah, it is.
That we agreed on.
It is. And so I cut my thumb straight on the tip and in the middle. So like, and I did it in the morning before I had even started cooking my breakfast. I had to crack eggs without the use of one of my thumbs. I'm not one of those people that can crack an egg one-handed. I can't do that.
No.
I was struggling.
Yeah.
So I had to do everything with my thumb just kind of like,
help.
Like I was hitchhiking, like sticking out.
Yeah.
And then I had to get ready for work. And so it was just a lot. I realize I take my thumbs for granted.
Yeah, this is like, I understand like why, like genetically we were like, we need to develop these.
Yes.
And then I cut my thumb on the exact same place while I was DIYing. I was doing have you seen people do the picture frame thing? Where they take like 4 picture frames, they take everything out, so you're just left with the frame and the glass, then you basically build like a little candle thing. I was doing that. And then I was taking, the metal folding bracket thing that you fold back over so nothing will fall out of the frame. I was pulling that out, and I think I cut it on that. And I was like, ow. And then all of a sudden there's just blood everywhere. There's blood on the glass. I'm like, what the fuck did I do? She's vicious. You see how open she is?
And then I mentioned to you that I was like, when I was because I was healing this cut on my thumb was pretty deep. And so I was like, and I'm very paranoid about things getting like infected or like my thumb's going to fall off. And so I was like, make sure I wash it and Band-Aid it and what is it? Antibiotic cream. What's it called?
Not Vaseline. It's Neosporin.
Yeah. Oh, geez. I could not remember. And so I was doing that. But then and I mentioned to you, I said, I forget that wounds heal from the inside out. And you said you didn't know that.
I was like, the fuck? I just never thought about that.
And, but yeah, I know. And I guess I just don't think about it. But but
it's mine. Yeah. Cause I'm like, technically it's not bleeding anymore, but like the top is still split on mine. So I'm like, well, that makes sense.
Mine is too, where I'm like it looks like it's pushed together, but if I just push a little here, the skin still splits apart on top, but it's healed underneath, or it's healing underneath. So it's not like an open wound, but it's just, and then you think about, oh yeah, well, I guess every time I've ever like skinned my knee or something like that, that's the reason like your skin scabs over, is to protect it, like stops the bleeding and it protects the inside so that it heals from the inside out. And that's why the scab is the last thing to fall off, I guess, when your wound is healing.
It's not, because I always peel it off.
You're a scab picker.
I have weird little tics. Like I'm sitting here literally pushing back my cuticles right now, just as like, I don't know why. I just physically can't help it. But something with me lately I've noticed, and Travis told me it's a circulation problem, which that didn't make me feel good, is I feel like I get bruises lately and they just stay forever. Oh. Like I have a bruise on my leg and I'm like, why are you still here? And he goes, that's not good. And I'm like, what do you mean? I mean, I know I'm not saying it's good, but you're saying it like I'm going to die. And he goes, well, that means when you're old, you're just going to like get blown away. You're just going to like fall and die. And he's like, that's a circulation problem. And I was like, don't tell me that, because I've already been under the assumption I have a circulation problem because I don't do anything all day because I have an office job. And then like when I get home, being a grown up sucks. You work all day, and then you're like, I'm going to work out. And you're like, who the fuck has time for that shit? I don't want to do that. I have other things I have to do. Like, how do you do all that? Like, how do people do that? It's annoying. It's the worst. And I even bought that little walking pad. I don't use it that much. It's sporadic. It's not
gym equipment be like that.
It's just rough out here. But I did get the thing at work where I can stand up now at my desk.
Oh, like the convertible standing desk.
I got one of those because I was like, I gotta stand up because like my legs started to hurt really bad.
My like this is just an episode of us complaining about being older and our hips hurting. like my hips will get tight and like start to hurt because I'll sit at my desk at work for literal hours without getting up or moving because I'm just like locked into what I'm doing. And then when I do go to stand up, like there have been times where I'll stand up like once. Like I'll get to work, sit down, and then once I sit, I'm working. I might get up one time and then I'm back in my chair working until I go to leave. And then I'm like, I feel it. And I'm like, oh, that's not good.
No, that's not good. You should make your work buy you one of those desk riser things like me. Because it is worth it. Because it does feel better to just stand up for a few minutes. And I have to remind myself, my Apple Watch often tells me stand up. But even then, like I at least do, like I'll stand up and I'll just do a timer. Like I've realized I need a timer. And it's easier for me to get things done that way. Even if it's like household chores, like you got 30 minutes to get all this done. I'm like, got it. Or I have 15 minutes of just standing up. Okay, I can do that. I don't understand how people stand on I don't know how people do the walking pad and work. How the fuck are y'all doing that? Like, I literally thought this is going to be a really good thing. I'll be able to edit pictures. I don't know that we've talked about that I've gotten into photography or not, but I've gotten into photography past few months. So I've been doing like photo shoots and stuff. So I have to edit pictures. And that takes time. And I'm like, okay, well, I can walk and do that at the same time. No. How the fuck are y'all doing that? If you actually have any advice for that, please let me know. That would be so great to get something done. But how do you do that?
I feel like, yeah, I don't know. That's interesting.
Because people do it. I've seen them do it.
But I wonder what type of work they're doing while they're doing that.
I'm like, what kind of work? Because I'm like, I can't sit there and stare at a picture and edit. But like, maybe if I had to watch a video or go through something and give people notes, maybe I could. But I couldn't do any inputting on my computer, I feel like. I just don't think I could do that.
I definitely couldn't do it at like a fast walking pace. Like it'd have to be more of like a much, like the only time I've ever seen people using any type of walking pad and then working too is in movies or like TV.
I see, yeah.
And they're walking at like a clip. Like they're like power walking doing stuff. And I'm like, it would have to be a leisurely stroll kind of pace, which you're still getting steps in, you're still moving your body, but it's more about like, in that case, it's more about movement and not so much about cardio or getting your heart rate up or burning calories or anything like that. Like it's just more about keeping your muscles and ligaments like lubricated and moving.
That's my problem. It's rough. I need to move more because it's not great. But yeah, I think that's all. And now we're just waiting for this coming weekend because this was a no race weekend. We are also a Formula One podcast now. Yeah. Slightly.
We're going to talk about it if and when we want to. We've just embraced that.
We've just embraced. We tried to start something else and we never mind. Yeah. It was just not great.
But yeah, we're just going to talk about whatever we want like we always do.
Yeah. So Formula One girlies, I'm going to attempt to watch some football this season. Just because I'm like, it's on. It's a sport. Mm-hmm. Why not?
At least occasionally keep up with the Chiefs games. See our girl Tay Tay.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I'm like,
did you see her outfit? Oh my gosh, she's so freaking hot.
It's ridiculous.
I just thought it was like, she just doesn't miss. She cannot, whoever her stylist is.
Literally.
Just doesn't ever miss.
No.
Taylor, whoever you're working with.
Her lip was a bit different. It wasn't like standard. It wasn't like red. I was like, oh my God, look at her.
She's not using the MAC Ruby Woo.
I was like, she's so beautiful. It's annoying.
I love love her boots. Those like red, like maroonish. Loved it. Speaking of football. So I was at a high school football game this past Friday. And when I tell you that this football game was so like intense in terms of like, it wasn't a very well attended game because the forecast was supposed to be rain and it was basically like a light, steady drizzle the entire game. And we stayed for the whole game. I got there at like 7:30. Mm-hmm. Game started at 8 and then we were there until probably 11. Mm-hmm. Steady rain, just a light, annoying drizzle. Yeah, the whole time. So it was like maybe 25% attendance on the home side.
Dang.
Like it was not a very well attended game, but
was it here? Mm-hmm. Okay.
And like didn't even get a halftime show because of the rain. Yeah. So I was just like, oh, well, okay. But my mom and I ended up staying for the whole game because normally we just leave right after halftime. But we ended up staying for the whole game because the first like half of the game was a defensive battle. When I tell you nobody scored in the first quarter because like they were so evenly matched, like neither team was going past the 30, like really on either side. And it was just like, it was getting heated. Yeah. When I tell you like the players, like you could tell they were kind of like snipping at each other and talking mad shit. You could tell they were talking shit to each other. And then the energy just kept getting like more tense and more tense.
And there's rain and it's just like
steady drizzle. Everyone's kind of miserable. And it's like both teams are getting frustrated because they can't make a play. Like they're very evenly matched for the first like quarter into the second quarter. And then top of the second quarter, our team scores. And then it takes the entire rest of the second quarter, literally in the last minute of the second, like we scored in the first minute, they scored in the last minute of the quarter.
Okay.
So it took them that entire time like to work their way down the field. Like it was just very evenly matched. Tensions ratcheting up, like they're getting in each other's faces. Like there's throughout the whole game, there's more and more just confrontations, like players getting in each other's faces between plays. Like they're hitting each other harder. Like flags, yellow out the gate were just penalty flags. Almost every play, there's at least one flag being thrown for a penalty.
Somebody has slept with somebody's girlfriend.
No, it was just
that intense.
It was just that intense. And it was a lot. And it was so good. Because everyone's like, oh, we want a good, clean game. And I'm like, oh no. I like it when they get mad. Because I don't want anybody to get hurt. But I want there to be tension. I want people to play a little bit, like get your elbows out. And every single play, like people were tackling a little bit too hard. They were like, and I was telling my mom, I'm like, look, if I was a football player, I'm the kind of person, I'd be the petty player. I'm the person that if I make a tackle, when I'm getting up from tackling you, I'm going to accidentally put my elbow like, into your like solar plexus as I'm getting up. Like I'm going to accidentally knee you and trip over you as I'm trying to get, like, I'm doing the little extra bits that I'm like, oh, we're going to wear you down. So I'm like, I'm living for all of this, right? Yeah. And then we're getting into, I think it was the fourth quarter of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
so they're tied at this point.
No, so there was a couple other scores. Okay. I think the end of the game, the other team ended up scoring twice in the game. We had, I think, 4 scores and a safety. So it was, I mean, we handed them their asses. But so like in the fourth quarter, I mean, when I tell you tension was getting high, it was to where like one of our guys kept getting in the faces of one of the other players on the other team. And there was this player on our side. He was like, I think he was an offensive lineman. Because he was tall and like a bigger guy, but he was constantly checking the players on his team. Like, player number 1 is getting in the other team's face, and then here comes big Mr. Protector guy, and he grabs onto his teammate's jersey and yanks him back and pulls him back a good 5 yards. Like, boom, like it's like, we ain't doing this. Like, get out their faces. He was doing that the whole game. Like, he was keeping his guys in check, and I was like, I like him because he's like, what are you doing? He's constantly like,
he was a player. Dang, he was like, but let's just we'll just hand them their asses. That's all we got to do our talking on the field.
My mom told me, she looked at me and she said, I bet he's in the FCA. He's like, what would Jesus do? And yanking kids back. I'm like, he's a good Christian boy.
What's the FCA?
Fellowship of Christian Athletes.
Oh.
So it's like a club specifically aimed at athletes who are Christians, where they'll do like they meet usually on like Wednesday mornings before school and do like a Bible study, and they do prayers, and they do like community service and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh. Okay.
But mom's like, I bet he's an FCA, which I thought was hysterical.
Yeah.
But like multiple times, like there was one time toward like, I think it was in the fourth quarter toward the end of the game, we're like within scoring distance. And again, one of our guys is getting in the face of the other team. And so same Mr. Bodyguard Protector comes in, yanks him back, is like, oh no, and pulling him back again. But yeah, so before that happened, so like it was early in the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, might have been late in the third quarter. I don't quite remember. But there was a point where like some of our players ended up on the other team's sideline. But we're like starting to get very...
Wait. One of our players went onto the other team's sideline.
Yeah, they ended up over there.
They ended up over there. We don't know.
I mean, well, it happens because when you throw the ball and you're making plays.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So you're saying like mid-play, they ended up over there. Like okay.
So they were ended up on the other team's sideline. And like, again, it's getting heated. And there was so much happening on the field that it's kind of hard to piece together exactly what happened, but it looked like they were getting into like very heated, not swinging on each other, but in each other's faces, like puffing up chests and yelling at each other and stuff like that. And so of course, then other people start rushing in, trying to pull them apart. And then it gets to a point where like our coaches, like a bunch of our players start to like go over there, and then all of our coaches, all the coaches are running in and they're like pulling players back, separating people. Refs are in there separating people, and then there's one particular player on the other team who was like getting in the face of one of our coaches, like, and the ref. So the ref and the coach are trying to like keep people separate, and this kid is just like like, and the ref has his hand like on his chest, like pushing him back, trying to pull him back, and like in the coach's face, right? And then he does like,
he did the jerk off thing.
Yeah,
this was our coach.
Literally, he did that, and me and my mom are shrieking. We're like, oh my God, he did not.
That's so rude,
so bad, and like
to a grown up.
And I told my mom that. I'm like, I understand players get heated, and there might be some verbal altercations and a little bit of physicality. But when you as a player start doing that to a coach on either team or to a ref, like, that is disrespectful. Like,
here's a fact. If you're going to be that disrespectful, you better be Tom Brady, bitch. You can't not act. Like, this is just a fact. You cannot act that way and then not be the best of the best, though, because then it's just embarrassing. Because at least, at the very least, which is, it's not a cute look no matter what. But at least if you're the best of the best and act like an absolute ass, you're the best of the best. And it's like, fuck. But like, that is so embarrassing because he probably is not.
Oh, he got ejected from the game. Because obviously during this whole thing, it was a pretty big like situation going on because it was multiple players on both teams. And so there was several, penalties, personal fouls on both sides.
This is wild.
He got ejected from the game because our side is screaming, like the crowd, we're screaming, "You can't do that." And then we're screaming like, kick him out. Like, it's a whole thing. Like, so he got ejected from the game. And then there's a solid 15 to 20 minute break, like in the game, where the refs called the head coach from both teams to the center of the field. And the head ref is talking to the coaches.
Probably talking them down. Like,
basically being like, we don't want to have to call this game, because we were winning at that point. But they're like, we don't want to have to call this game and be like, okay, we're done. And, whoever has the most points wins right now. But I'm sure it was a case of like, we don't want to call this game. Get your players in line. If there is anything beyond that we would deem as like unreasonable,
Yeah.
Or too far outside the lines of like being respectful, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Anything that goes across the line, we're going to call the game and we're going to stop playing, because they're like, I'm pretty sure, again, this is all just conjecture. I'm just making it up.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that was what was happening. And so then the head coaches, okay, they finish talking to the head ref, go to their teams, huddle up. And basically, I'm pretty sure they give their teams a good stern talking to of like, listen, hands off. We're going to play the game. We need to finish this game, and we're going to do it clean. And I don't want anybody else getting in anybody else's faces. Like, we just want to finish the game. And then like all the refs are meeting up in the middle and having a little ref meeting. And I'm pretty sure what they were saying is like, they were telling the refs, like, in between as soon as the whistle is blown on a play, whatever ref is closest to players, like, you need to jump in there and make sure they're separating as quickly as possible. Like, you don't want to even give the kids the opportunity to like start talking shit to each other, because literally, once they resume play, the kids, and so the team we were playing was much smaller than us in terms of the number of kids on their team. They might have had 50. We have like 120, So they're a much smaller force, but like, it was funny because
they're mighty.
Literally every time in between plays, if one of our players was getting too close to one of the other team's players were like hands up and backing off, because their coach was literally like, hands off, do not touch anybody, unless we're in the middle of a play. Because I saw multiple players on the other team doing that, and I thought that was weird, or it was noticeable. And then literally there was a play where one of our players or one of their players ended up catching the ball, and it was close to our sideline. And so they ended up running them out of bounds or whatever. And so like, as soon as the whistle blows and the play's up and the play is done and the players, pop up off the ground, the ref is the closest to them is right there. Like,
yeah,
they weren't getting in each other's faces, but the ref was kind of like, okay, let's
move it quickly. To avoid it, just in case.
It was intense, and it was everything. I loved it. I loved the drama. It was great. And then, okay, so I mentioned earlier how in the fourth quarter, our kind of like Mr. Bodyguard, big Mr. FCA. So one of our players got in the face of another player, and this is after all this altercation, and so he's getting in the face of the other team's player, and it's kind of like, you can tell, talking shit or whatever. And the other team's player, again, is like hands up, kind of backing off. And so Mr. FCA runs in there, again, yanks him back. And then that player that got yanked back, he is suddenly off the field, and another player is in his spot. And I was like, oh, the coach has said, oh no, we ain't doing that. But yeah, so I know that was a very long story, but it was intense, y'all.
That's just crazy, because like, where we live, like, high school football culture is still very, very big, and to schools in particular. So it's wild that was where this school is not. This is like an out-of-state school.
Yeah, it's not like a huge rivalry or anything.
For them to act like that.
I don't know that they've even played each other before.
Yeah, I don't know, something that's kind of crazy.
It was great. It was so good. And I'm just like, yeah. And then I looked at my mom and was like, so the rivalry, we'll call it the big rivalry game that they play every year here with the two big teams. I'm like, if this is what it's like with the out-of-state.
When is that?
I think it's their last regular game of the season.
Okay.
I think, or it's toward the end, so it'll be in like October. But I looked at my mom and I'm like, oh, and it's a home game for us. I'm like, we ain't missing that. And you can bet the attendance for that game, it's always sold out, packed out on both sides.
There are people that have had tickets to that for years. Mm-hmm. Like, I guess because you can buy those like you would like at a regular football game where you just have like standing seats or whatever because you paid X amount. And I'm like, what the fuck? For a high school? It's because where I'm from, it's not that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they so you can buy home season tickets, and if you're a Touchdown Club member, you get first priority. If you're a season ticket holder from the previous season, you get like second priority. Like there's date windows of when you can purchase.
Yeah.
So if like Touchdown Club members don't renew their season tickets, those seats then become available for the next tier, which would be previous season ticket holders. And then it goes down to like everybody else.
Yeah.
So it's a case of like, and I'm pretty sure they do that for like the big rivalry game. I'm pretty sure they give for first priority to like Touchdown Club members and then season ticket holders and then everybody else. I'm excited for that game.
So. No, that'll be interesting. Speaking of elbows out though and aggression. So like we said, we've been watching Formula One, and I'm going to be honest. I have, if you're not familiar with the sport, sorry, go watch it. I don't know what to tell you. But
start with season 1.
Yeah, you can go watch How to Survive, or you can just go get go F1 TV and watch it that way and just start to watch old races. That's all. Because honestly, you'll learn a lot more doing that. Realistically, you'll learn a lot more getting F1 TV and watching a lot of the weekend warm-ups and a lot of the
extra programming they do.
Yeah, and you'll learn way more. So anyway, we are really into Formula One, and right now there's a situation where. So Max Verstappen he is like the driver who is arguably one of the best in the entire world. He's a 3-time world champion, trying to get his 4th title this year. He's in the lead for the Drivers' Championship, and the team he's on, which is Red Bull, is still in the lead for the Constructors' Championship. And when the season started, nobody really thought that like anybody would be challenging that because Red Bull has just been such a strong like team. They've had the best car since these regulations really happened. Well, McLaren, which is another Formula One team, they've been around an extremely long time. They haven't really been dominant for a long time either. They just came out swinging. So we're dealing with McLaren basically fighting Red Bull for the Constructors' Championship, but we also have a McLaren driver who could be in contention for the Drivers' Championship as well.
He's still behind Max in the points for the lead, but that lead is closing.
Yes, because now Red Bull, for whatever, so not only has McLaren jumped forward in performance, Red Bull has fallen behind. So Max isn't finishing. I mean, he's not doing a horrible job by any means, but he's not always on the podium the past few races. I mean, he did get second last, not the last race, but the race before, right? Not Monza, but the other one, Zandvoort, I believe he got second. Anyway, the point is, he's not always able to fight for, like, he's not able to get the most points every weekend to kind of keep that margin he's got higher. And so
he's been consistently finishing behind his number one opponent, number one competition for the Drivers' Championship the last several races. So, every time your opponent scores more points than you in a race, they're closing the gap. And being able to catch you in the points.
So the thing everybody's talking about right now is that in a lot of these Formula One teams, you find you have a number 1 driver and a number 2 driver, so for example, Lewis Hamilton has raced for Mercedes for like 12 years. One of his, like when he won a lot of world championships, Valtteri Bottas was his number 2 driver. And he kind of knew that, that was kind of the setup of it.
And for the most part, the way that's sort of scenario or driver teammate relationship works, because every team has 2 drivers.
Yeah.
You're basically at the beginning of the season, your number 1 and number 2 drivers are pretty much gonna drive how they're gonna drive, and as long as they don't, crash into each other or cause each other to spin out, crash, whatever.
Yeah.
Then they can drive how they want to drive. They can compete. They can race against each other. But as the season goes on and one driver is clearly pulling ahead in points and clearly they're in the fight for the Drivers' Championship, the team will then start to prioritize that driver. So they will prioritize them with the strategy. They will prioritize them with upgrades and with, if if you're the number one driver and the number two driver in your team happens to be ahead of you, when it gets closer to the end of the race, the team may give you what they call team orders, which as a driver, you are contractually obligated to obey team orders. And so when team orders says, hey, you have to let them pass you and get ahead of you so that they can finish higher and get more points, you have to do it. And so the number two driver is then contractually obligated. They have to let the number one driver pass them. And I mean, that's happened a lot with Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton, where Valtteri might have been ahead and they're like, Valtteri, this is James.
Yeah.
Valtteri, it's James. Give the place back, basically. And that, I think in that particular, Lewis and Valtteri, they understood each other and their positions within the team. And Valtteri is, you can say a lot about him as a driver. He's a great driver, but he's also like a team player all the way. And so he's like, if the team says give the place back, give the place back. But that if you have drivers such as with McLaren, who are the team as a whole, but also the drivers themselves have not been in this scenario before where they are competing for podiums consistently, competing for wins consistently with both drivers, and you have both drivers who mathematically could still win the drivers' championship.
The thing is, both of them still could, and that's where it's like, and so the problem too is you have the drivers' championship and you have the constructors' championship, and so like Ferrari's a team where they almost care about the drivers' championship more than the constructors, because like historically they just, they're Ferrari. That's what they like, having that drivers' championship. Other teams, they prioritize the constructors more.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, in Formula One, there are two championships, the drivers' championship and the constructors. So when you have two drivers driving for a team, so for Red Bull, we've got Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez. Both drivers, when they finish a race, they both score points, depending on if they finish in the top 10 in a point scoring position. So if you score in the top 10, you're going to get points. The points go to the drivers individually. So if Max is first, he gets 25 points. If Sergio comes in 10th, he gets 1 point. So they each get their individual points, but then both of those points then are added to the point total for the team combined. So now for that race in particular, Red Bull will have scored 26 points for the team, 25 from Max, 1 from Sergio. So the Constructors' Championship is the combined total points for the team that has been scored. And that actually, a lot of teams will prioritize that because that is where money comes into play. So depending on where your team finishes in the Constructors' Championship, that's how much money you win from Formula One.
Yeah.
So the higher you finish, 1 through 10, the more money you're going to get toward the next season to develop your car and whatever. So a lot of teams will prioritize that because they're like, oh, no, we're a poor team. We need all the money we can get, right? But then you have the Drivers' Championship, which is individual, dependent upon the driver. You're scoring points for yourself as a driver. And that doesn't come with prize money. But
I think the teams get some, but the driver gets no prize money.
But it is it has a lot more to do with like branding stuff and marketing. So if you can market your driver as being the world champion, you can sell a lot more merch. You can do a lot more with that, a lot more sponsorship, endorsement.
Well, the thing with that too is like I think it also makes it attractive for like future drivers because we know McLaren, Red Bull, Mercedes, even Williams back in the day, they've all had world champions, but who you remember are the drivers who won that, You remember like McLaren, like you remember that Ayrton Senna was a Formula One driver who pretty much everybody knows of. He passed away in the 90s, but he like is almost everybody's idol for the most part. And you remember him being a world champion and he was with McLaren, but like you don't think of like, oh, well, the McLaren won the constructors. No, you think that Senna won the drivers' championship because that's even like what drivers are looking for, the fans are looking for. No, like it's just more iconic. Mm-hmm. So like, that's not something that everybody gets to do. So it's kind of like, yeah, Red Bull might win the constructors but nobody's going to care who drove for them at the time they won it, but you're going to know Max Verstappen is a world champion.
Yeah.
So it's just a clout thing. But like what's happening now is you have Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri who both drive for McLaren. And they're competing against each other still. And
because they are both mathematically still capable of, it is still mathematically possible for either of them to win the world championship. Like depending on, and that's dependent on how many races we have left and if they were to score, first or whatever. It is still mathematically possible for either one of them to score enough points in the next, is it 10 rounds, 9 rounds, something like that?
8, right? Moving forward?
I don't know. But it's still mathematically possible for them to win.
And so a lot of the public is very confused about why McLaren has refused, because at this point they still refuse. Zach Brown, who's like the CEO of McLaren, he refuses to like say who their number 1 or number 2 driver is. His answer is, we have 2 number 1 drivers. And everybody's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, this is a do or die situation. You are not promised this situation next year, and you're surely not promised it in 2026 when regulations change, because everybody's starting over then. You are not promised this opportunity again.
The opportunity to win a driver's championship with one of your drivers.
Or even the constructor's championship, because you have a winning car.
Yeah. And so the problem is that there have been a couple of races recently where you could argue that the McLaren as a team should have given team orders or shown preferential treatment to Lando, because he is ahead of Oscar in the drivers' championship. So he is the closest to Max. So it's like, but again, it is still mathematically possible for Oscar to also win the drivers' championship. So, people have been very critical of McLaren for refusing to give team orders, and they just don't understand. They're like, why would you not prioritize Lando and give him every opportunity to win the drivers' championship? Because it could come down to the last race.
It could. And what's crazy, it could come down to the last race, and it could not just be it could come down to the last race and it'd be like 3 people in contention to win. Like, that's how like it's getting that close.
And like you said, Zach Brown, CEO of McLaren, has like, when he's asked about who the number 1 driver is, and he says, oh, we have 2 number 1 drivers. He will not say that Lando is their number 1 driver. And somebody pointed out that it may be that it's in Oscar Piastri's contract.
I was gonna bring that up.
That he cannot be called or considered or treated as a number 2 driver unless it is mathematically impossible for him to win the drivers' championship. So it's like, it could be stipulated in his contract that that's the case. Like, and again, it's still mathematically possible for him to win it. So
it's that, and I think too, people just kind of forget the past quickly. But with Oscar Piastri, he grew up as an Alpine, he was with them in his what's it called? I guess academy. So he grew up with Alpine, in
their driver's academy.
So he won the Formula 2 championship, Formula 3 championship with Alpine. And there was a lot of drama that happened because Alpine was like, you're going to be our driver. And they publicly announced that he was going to be their Formula 1 driver. And he's like, no, I'm not.
Yeah, he was a reserve driver for them for a year. And they had an open seat. And they announced, like you said, that he was going to drive for them. And he said, it's come to my attention that without my consent.
And it was drama.
That they put out a statement saying, I'll drive for them. And I am not driving for them.
I'm going to McLaren.
Yeah.
But that was kind of a poaching moment. Like, Zach Brown poached him. Because the other thing, too, it's not every Formula 1 driver who's driven in Formula 3 and Formula 2. They have not been a world champion for those Formula 3 or Formula 2. So sometimes they have never won a championship in those feeder series, or they win one but not the other.
Or they may have just finished, in the top 3.
Yeah, but the thing is, when you are a Formula 2 or Formula 3 champion, you can't race anymore in that series. You're not allowed to.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I looked that up, because what I was curious of, is if a Formula 1 driver could go back to Formula 2. They actually could, so in 2019, they changed some rules around. If you've never won a championship before in Formula 2 or Formula 3, you can join. But the second you win that driver, you win that championship, you can't race anymore in that series. You have to progress or move on or something.
Or move to a different series.
Yeah. So Oscar, pretty much, he had nowhere else he could go. So I'm assuming that's probably why he was a reserve driver, because he literally could not, because he's a Formula 3 and Formula 2 champion. And I'm like, I also would think that Zach Brown is well aware that Oscar Piastri is going to be a future world champion one day. He's he's super young, but he's a phenomenal driver from such an early age.
This is only his 2nd season in Formula 1, and he is so good.
And it's just he's also dealing with that. He's dealing with, he basically, Lando, he's been in Lando's life forever. in his karting career forever. And now he has Oscar. He has 2 drivers that are number 1 material. That's just like, I don't.
And I think
who are you trying to piss off? It's like, I ain't trying to piss anybody off.
I think he said before, like, you know, that would be a great problem to have, would be to have 2 number 1 drivers or, you know, 2 drivers who could be a world champion. And that's a good problem to have, but it's still a problem.
It's a problem. So the reason too that it's like, for some people, they might not see why it can be a problem is a lot of it is these cars are expensive. These upgrades take time and they take money. You also have a certain amount of upgrades that you're allowed before you start to take penalties.
And upgrades are improvements they make to the car over the course of that season of racing.
Yeah. And so you don't always want your drivers competing against each other, like wheel to wheel, because if they wreck, then both cars are now damaged. Both might be out of the race. And now both of them have now fallen behind. Or even if one driver is able to continue on and another isn't, it's not always in the team's best interest for the constructors for your drivers to be competing against one another. And so that's why everybody's very confused. And Will Buxton, who's a commentator on F1 TV for Formula One, he has been very, very critical, very vocal about
I love Will Buxton.
Yeah, I love him too.
He was going in on McLaren. He was reading them for filth. And he rolled his eyes at Zach Brown when Zach Brown said they have 2 number 1 drivers, and I was living for it.
I literally he has a book that he's put out because he's super knowledgeable with Formula One history as well. He has some book that I was like, I'm going to buy that. And literally I'm going to go to a race one day and hopefully I can track him down. But will you please sign this? Because he's just super cool. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he was just like, he doesn't understand it, is very just like, so all that though, the thing that has really just piqued my interest the most with this whole situation is the online discourse between super fans. And it's just fucking cringe, to be honest. Like, people being actually mad at Oscar so in the last race that happened, Lando Norris he got pole position, so he was first.
He was starting the race from the first spot.
Yeah. And he has a reputation of not being able to hold that position. He's gotten multiple pole positions, and then by the first turn, he doesn't have it anymore.
Yep, he gets overtaken. People pass him by. For whatever reason, he has issues with his race starts.
Yeah, and Oscar is a great starter. Mm-hmm. And so, basically, the race starts. The first turn, Lando keeps it. Then they get to this little chicane or another turn, and basically Oscar overtakes him.
And he pulled a move on Lando. It was like a cutthroat.
It could have been. If Lando wouldn't have been very aware of his surroundings and what was going on, it could have been a situation where the cars could have gotten damaged. So that's where I'm this.
But also, like, as a Formula One driver, you are paid to be very aware of your surroundings.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I think Lando did make the comment, well, if I had braked a couple, a meter, 10 meters too late, we could have touched and crashed. And it's like, well, yeah, you could have, but you didn't, because you're aware of your surroundings like you're supposed to be.
I mean, it's one of those things that Travis had made the comment. He was like, it's more about, it's good that it didn't happen, but it could have if one little thing did go wrong. And his point, which I'm like, I guess as a point, is if Oscar had the better pace, right after that was a straight, he could have just more safely overtaken him. He's like, but at the same time, nothing happened, and he has no obligation to help Lando at all. But you just don't want to fuck yourself by doing something like that, because you could have it. Because you didn't, it's fine, but it's something to consider later. Like, you could have. The race just started. If you have a better pace, like there are better places to overtake on the track potentially.
But I would push back and argue that, one, there's no guarantee that you would have had another opportunity to overtake somebody, because if that was any other driver from any other team, Lando would have pulled the same move, I think. Or not Lando, sorry, Oscar would have pulled the same move on them. Because again, there's no guarantee. Like, you take Ferrari, for instance, right? So they didn't necessarily have the quicker pace on this last race, but the reason Charles Leclerc won was because of their strategy. But like, he didn't have the fastest car on the track, but because they were strategic and because they figured out when to overtake or when to time certain things, they ended up ahead of everyone else in front of the McLarens.
So like they just had better tire management.
But you can make the argument, though. The point I'm trying to make is that you can make the argument that could have been his only opportunity, that race, to get ahead. And once you're ahead, it's a lot easier, I think, to manage things from the front.
I would agree and disagree, because I'm like, if it was somebody else, if it wasn't Oscar that did that move, I would say they might not have another chance. But I mean, Lando and him are in pretty evenly matched cars that I'm like, they pretty much can keep up with each other. I think that I
mean, there have been other races where Oscar was a couple seconds off of Lando's pace.
But most of that was like pit stop stuff. This is the start of the race. So like everybody's pretty still within like seconds or like tenths of seconds within each other. But either way, I'm like,
but I mean,
either way, he's a race car driver. I'm not arguing whether he should or shouldn't have done it. I'm saying if people want to be critical of like, it was potentially dangerous, I'm not going to say it wasn't. I'm not going to say as a team I'm not going to say as the team, if I'm the team, I'm going to be happy nothing happened, but I am going to consider like, I might, Zach Brown might not, I don't know. I would think about, okay, yeah, we're really lucky nothing happened, but it could have happened and that would have sucked really bad. And, but Oscar though, he did nothing wrong. He's a race car driver, right? That's just what he's there to fucking do. He's not there to help Lando win. Oscar gets nothing out of helping Lando get the driver's championship. It does nothing for him. It does nothing for his career. Nothing, nada. He is not there to support Lando unless he is going to be told to. So if he's not told to, why should he give a shit?
He doesn't have to. And I made this point, I think, when we were talking about it, a while ago, is that Oscar Piastri's two requirements or two obligations as a race car driver for McLaren. He has two obligations. His first and foremost obligation is to drive to win races. That is the first, primary, foremost thing, is he is driving to win races. His second obligation to the team is to follow team orders if and when they are given.
Yeah, that's like...
So unless the team specifically tells him, give the place back, do X, Y, Z, don't attack Lando on the first lap, let him lead, help defend, unless the team specifically tells him that, he's only going to be doing obligation number one, which is driving to win no matter who he is racing against, including his teammate.
Yeah, I mean, that's just like the mindset they all have. That's the mindset they really should have. So what's bizarre to me is everybody having that conversation about how McLaren should handle it. Listen, I'm not in charge of a team. I've never been in charge of a team. I'm not going to act like I know more than people that haven't, or at least been in that, realm. Like, I have an opinion, but it's obviously not nearly as educated as people that are actually involved within that team, right? So I'm more annoyed at people that are so, I'm talking actually emotional. I mean like people that are writing like think pieces that are like super like, I can't believe, why would he do this? Like he's so, like using the words like selfish and manipulation and just words that are like basically therapy speak, that I'm like, it's a fucking race, bro. You're watching race car drivers and race cars on a racetrack. What the fuck are you here for? If you're here for some cloud cutesy bullshit, go somewhere else. I love seeing people with their elbows out fucking racing. That's what's fun about it. That is what is fucking fun. It is entertaining. It's just like, what the fuck are you here for? Are you actually just here from the cute like Instagram, TikTok edits? Like, they're funny, but is that actually all that you're here for? Because if it is, then baby doll, go somewhere else. Like, nobody wants to hear your boohoo think pieces about, like, it's fine to be a fan of somebody. I'm a fan of Lewis Hamilton. I'm not going to write this super strong, emotional think piece about somebody who doesn't know that I exist, that I basically don't really know that much about, besides I'm mad he didn't win. You're like, people that are actually angry at Oscar for doing his job as a race car driver is beyond me. Because why the fuck should he give a shit about Lando in his driver championship? Because it does nothing for him. Because look where Valtteri is. Valtteri helped Lewis for years, and guess now he's on Sauber.
8 scored a point.
He was a great teammate. Where to get him? That's what sucks about being number 2 sometimes. So nobody wants to be the number 2 driver.
Nope. Sure do not.
So it's just like, I get being a fan of somebody and liking somebody and being excited for somebody, being disappointed for somebody. All of that makes sense. But to be so like crying and like publicly talking about it,
it's just,
it's fucking weird.
It's cringy.
It's cringy
because it's like weird. You're so uninformed about something that you appear to be very passionate about, which I encourage being passionate about
100%.
hobbies and sports and things you care about. I encourage that. But to be so passionately wrong and so passionately uninformed and to like speak about things that you really don't understand. And it's not like it's super hard to understand. It's not like it's super hard to get the same information we're getting. So like I don't quite understand.
But I think that's the difference between being a fan of the sport and as a whole, or just being fans of drivers and their personalities. Because it's like, I love Daniel Ricciardo. I think he's fucking funny. I think he brings a good vibe. But he was also a menace on the track. Like the Honey Badger name did not come from him being funny and dancing in the pits and dancing and being funny with the camera. It came from him. And being
friends with the other drivers.
Yeah, like, no, it came from him. If you're in front of his ass, he's going to get you. Mm-hmm. He's going to he is going to just break that down. It's like he got that name for being very persistent and just, he's going to get your ass.
There's an interview that Nico Rosberg did with Daniel Ricciardo. Mm-hmm. Which Nico Rosberg is a Formula F1 driver. And he was
former.
I said former.
Did you?
Yes.
Oh, my bad.
Nico Rosberg is a former Formula One. Nico Rosberg is a former F1 driver. And he was talking to Daniel Ricciardo, and they, during Nico's career, they raced together. They raced on the same track together, and were competing against each other. And Nico was like, you're like the one driver who every time I saw you coming up in my, side mirrors coming up behind me, it was just like, oh, fuck, like, here we go. Because he's like, I knew that you were going to be super aggressive and doing like, the lunging attacks and the dive bombing and like trying to like.
Because he was like really late and really hard on the brakes and everything like that.
He's very well known for being a very aggressive overtaker, and he's going to get your ass. And Nico it was funny to kind of hear him admit that.
I think I recently saw that where I'm like, oh yeah, I forget how long Daniel Ricciardo's been in Formula One, where I'm like, oh shit, yeah, he's been in like a really long time. But it's just like the Honey Badger name, as cute as it is, it did not come from him being all cutesy in the pits.
Honey Badgers
are vicious.
It's a cute animal name, but they are aggressive. They kill like cobra snakes and stuff.
They are fucking vicious animals,
attackers.
Dude.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I don't know. I get really annoyed with this. Like, it's one thing to be upset something happened, right? And to be like, it's more like, okay, 2021 between Lewis and Max. Looking at it now and being more educated now, like now that I like the sport and like I'm like keeping up with it, I understand why people were really upset. I could see being like emotional, but I say emotional, I just mean like disappointed or feeling like somebody got actually fucked over, because that was like the FIA that was like that organization that like it wasn't a driver anyone was mad at. None of that was Max's fault. All of that was an organization thing. But so like being mad at an organization for feeling like you're doing somebody wrong or what you did was wrong is a lot different than being mad at a race car driver for doing their job.
So for those who don't know, in 2021, this was when Max was competing for his first drivers world championship.
Yeah.
He and Lewis Hamilton were like neck and neck pretty much the whole season, battling it out. And Lewis in that season was competing for his 8th world championship, which would have tied him.
No, he's tied right now.
He's currently tied for the most world championships by a single driver.
With Michael Schumacher.
So he would have like taken over that kind of like title of most all-time world championships for driver. So they were competing neck and neck. It came down to the last race of the season of who was going to win. And basically there was a decision made by the FIA, who is the controlling body, the governing body of Formula One and other
and it was it was Michael Massey who did it, and he was the director at the time, I believe is what his title was. And so
basically he made a decision. There was an incident with a car and a restart, and basically he made a call that was not within the defined rules.
Yeah, he went against the rule book. He literally didn't go with the rule book, but then some people try to pinpoint it. There was a safety car issue. Yeah. Somebody wrecked. There was a safety car. There were 5 laps left. And so
he didn't follow the rules as in the proper procedure that was supposed to happen. And he made a call that was against the rules. And it basically allowed for Max Verstappen, in the way that everything unfolded, it allowed him to then win the race. And a lot of people, and I mean, you can't blame Max for that because all he did was race to win, and a decision was made in the race that favored him. And so you're not going to push back against that. Why would you? That's stupid. But a lot of people, give the FIA and specifically that race director.
He lost his job
because it was just ridiculous.
They admitted it. Literally, it was a situation where later on they did an investigation. Dude got fired. Or quit or whatever he did. He literally did not go on. Like he didn't have another season in Formula One. He was done. Mm-hmm. And they literally said it was human error. And it was just,
but anyway. It was a case of like, in that particular instance, you were saying you can understand being angry at an organization.
Exactly. Like you're angry because you're just like, you're watching this person that is could make history, right? And it's nothing about Max. Like it's nothing against him. He didn't do anything wrong.
No.
It's just being upset. Like if you look at Lewis, you're like, wow, that almost feels like something was ripped from you, because if the rules would have been followed, he should have won that race. Mm-hmm. That's just what would have happened. And so, but that's a different scenario than people writing think pieces about being mad that Oscar overtook Lando. Shut the fuck up, bro. He had no team orders. He has no obligation to give a fuck about Lando's driver championship. Why should he? All he cares about his. So until he's told, hey, this is what we're going to do, then he has no obligation to care. Obviously, yes, he should care about his team in the sense of like, I'm not talking about what happened at the last race, but like in general, don't do something stupid to wreck either of you. Like it's one thing to just race, have your elbows out. It's another thing to be like reckless, right? So clearly, don't be reckless or something. That would just be, that's not helping anybody out. But it's just like so fucking bizarre to see these like people that I'm like, do you need therapy? Like I'm dead. Like, is this a mental illness where I'm like, it's almost worse than like some of the Swifties. Cause like I'm a Swiftie, but some Swifties I'm like, all right, that like, I'm not going to go outside her fucking house and like stand there and wait for her. I'm not going to go to whatever record, or recording studio that she's at and wait for her. I'm not going to go.
That's crazy.
Like I'm not going to go stalk somebody. It's fucking bizarre.
Yeah.
Like, it's so weird. And these people, I'm like, you guys are more passionate about this than the drivers are. And they did it. It happened to them. You're more upset than Lando seems to be. It's just, and it's a lot. It's a lot of like super fan, weird, like overtly emotional stuff that I'm like, this is why people don't want us here. Y'all got to stop.
See, my problem with it is that as somebody who is not one of those overly emotional, like fangirl type, like I think they give fangirls a bad name.
They do.
Because I'm like, I'm a Charles Leclerc fangirl. I'm a Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris fangirl. I love them all. And I'm happy when any of them overtakes anybody else. I'm just like, yes.
Yeah, I'm like, it's hard to say. Like, I'm a fan. I'm a Lewis Hamilton fangirl. They love me some Daniel Ricciardo. I love Max.
Yeah,
I love Charles. I mean, I almost love everybody.
I know, they're all great.
So it's kind of rough because I'm like, oh, I love them all.
I'm like, when Yuki makes a move and finishes in the points, I'm like, go Yuki.
Yeah, like it's just. But now if I had to pick like who I'm like, it's. I mean, 44, babe. 44.
Yeah, but I think that it gives fangirl a bad rep.
It does.
When you see people who are like just nuts.
Yeah,
like full on crazy nuts. Like it's giving like juvenile, it's giving uninformed,
exactly.
It's giving like crazy. And I just, as somebody who is not that, I also, when I'm looking for content online as being part of the F1 online community, we consume a lot of Formula One content, not just the races, not just the F1 TV programming, but like podcasts, and we read articles and we keep up with the latest news and we follow commentators online to see what else they're saying on air.
I'm playing F1 fantasy, babe.
Yeah. And so it's like we consume a lot of content, so we are knowledgeable. And this fangirl cry rant, it's so unfair,
like why?
Is not the kind of shit I want to see. It's annoying, and it does nothing to enhance my enjoyment of the sport or my participation and enjoyment of participating in the F1 online like discourse and community. It just doesn't do, it does nothing.
It's weird, dude. It's so weird.
It's doing a disservice. It's like throwing in trash. Like we have this like wonderful sea of people who are like-minded like us and just enjoy the sport for what it is and like to consume content about it and talk about it and discuss. And we have our favorite drivers and we like the cute, funny stuff, like the cutesy sort of content. But we also really like when they give like good in-depth analysis, interviews, stuff like that. So we have this nice little sea of people who are like us. And then we have these like flaming balls of garbage that are the fangirly bullshit people who just start like throwing their trash into our little pond. And I'm like, can you get the fuck out, please? Like, go get your own trash pond.
Like, go away. Go away. We need to take back the word fangirl.
Yeah, we're taking it back.
We're taking it back. It is not for the weirdos.
Yeah.
Okay?
It's for people who are just passionate about their interests.
Like, and if anything that we said offended you,
good.
Then I don't know what to tell you because I'm not.
If the shoe fits, honey child.
Yeah, like, so if you're not what we're talking about, then there's nothing to be mad about. But if you are, I don't know what to help.
If anything we said struck a chord within you and you feel offended.
Sorry, babe. But I'm not sorry, actually.
You know what? I think that this might be your wake-up call moment. This might be the time when, you know, you kind of face some things about yourself.
Go outside.
Touch some grass.
There's some fresh air.
Yeah.
It's going to be all right.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be okay.
We're going to get through this.
Like, it'll be fine.
It's not too late to change. You can make the choice right now.
Yes.
To unfollow those other fangirly weirdo accounts.
Weird.
You don't have to engage with them. You don't have to engage with that kind of behavior. You can make the choice right now to like
just be normal, dude.
Be normal.
Just be normal.
You can still be passionate.
You can be passionate and you can be kind of just like, you can be loud and excited.
You can still post all the same fan edits, the photos.
Yeah, those are fine. It's funny.
Posts about supporting your favorite. We're not saying you can't have a favorite driver.
No.
You can have a favorite driver and post all about him, like all the stuff. You can certainly do all that. But it's the crying, whining think pieces when your driver doesn't win. You're just like, it's just not fair.
Or the hit pieces or like
dragging another driver
or even
for doing their job.
Dragging another driver, dragging the driver's significant others. It's fucking weird, bro. It's fucking weird. That's enough. Stop it. Stop it right now. Don't do that anymore.
And part of me is like, how old are these people that are doing this? And part of me wants to be like, oh, they must be young. But I'm like,
I've seen some profile pictures.
I feel like some of them are not that young.
No, that's the problem. I'm like, listen, I'm going to be honest. Like some of them, I'm like, if you're 13, like, you know, there's a lot of happening for you right now. But like, if you hear this, just take a breath, think about it really hard and go, am I being weird?
But if you're a full-blown adult,
that's enough.
Stop it.
No more.
Right now.
It's embarrassing.
No more young lady and or man.
No more. It's fucking weird. We're saying this as your friend.
Because we care.
Don't do it anymore. And I'm not saying don't be excited. Like when Lewis Hamilton won Silverstone, I cried. I didn't film myself crying. I didn't write a Threads or Twitter post this long that goes, me, crying and this and that and the third. I didn't do all that now. Now the fan edits were sick. I loved the fan edit. I love a fan edit. They're fun. They evoke the emotion that I feel when I watch. I love that kind of shit. I love the hype content. I love the funny content. But like, and I guess too, most of it is if you're gonna scream and cry and stomp your feet and cross your arms, then know what the fuck you're talking about.
I think
be informed and don't just come across as a whiny crybaby. Like it's
saying it's not fair.
Like what? And then people bringing up fucking, well, what about what happened in Hungary? That doesn't have shit to do with this race, babe.
Nope.
Nothing. Ain't got nothing to do with it. Completely two different scenarios. Like I don't want to hear about that. And that's exactly what I said.
If you're posting content that is positive and uplifting and supportive of your favorite driver, I'm all about it. But it's like I said, when you come negatively dragging other drivers or dragging, like you said, their significant others.
That's fucking weird. That's a whole other episode for another day because I've got some thoughts on that one. That's fucking bizarre.
Yeah, that stuff is just weird. And I'm also not saying you can't be critical of other drivers.
Yeah, 100%.
But again, it's be critical, but be informed when you're talking about it. You can't just say, oh, that's not fair. Like, why isn't it fair?
It's like if you're going to be critical, an example, right? When Lance Stroll had hit Daniel Ricciardo, this was a while ago, he ran into the back of Daniel Ricciardo. He blamed Daniel. Daniel was like, the fuck are you talking about? Like, there was a wreck that happened in front of me and I had to stop. Why don't you use your fucking eyes? That scenario, if you want to be critical of Lance Stroll, you could be, because you could go find all these other instances where he's literally run into other people and talk about, like, you know, he really, if you want to be critical of somebody, that's completely different than being like, it's not fair that Oscar overtook Lando and he took his win away. No, he didn't take his win away, because the fact of that, I like Lando Norris. I do like Lando. It's nuts. So when I say this is not said in a hateful way. The opportunity shouldn't have been there. Mm-hmm. That's just, I think he feels that way. So it's like every single time.
In that moment, he was not good enough of a driver to maintain that position.
Yeah, because
it's a fact.
Because he like Oscar, it was a clean overtake. Whether or not what it could have been doesn't matter, because it's not what happened at this point.
And it's also like saying that he wasn't a good enough driver in that moment is not to say that he's just not a good enough driver, period. I'm not saying he's not a good driver at all. I'm not even saying that he wasn't a good driver over the totality of the race.
Exactly.
I'm saying in that particular moment, at that specific time, in that specific race, when his teammate was able to overtake him, he was not a good enough driver to prevent that from happening.
Yeah. And I think he's the first to say that. Like, what's funny is he's like, I'm not asking somebody to hand me a race. I'm not asking this. I'm not asking that. Oscar did better. That's what happened. And I'm just like, every single mistake or every single thing that, like, right now Lando's in, Lando currently is being molded. Every single thing that is happening to him, he is absorbing and he is learning from it. Mm-hmm. And he will continue to do that. Hopefully, and if he doesn't, then that'll be what makes or breaks him. But if he continues to accept this, every single race, learn something about, well, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? What do I need to do? Doesn't even mean anything bad. It just means in this particular area, I need to work on this, that, and the third. That'll be what makes him a champion. Mm-hmm. So it's just, it is what it is. But some of y'all got to go get another hobby too.
Diversify.
It's okay. Like, I've been doing DIYs.
Diversify your portfolios.
Go on TikTok. Look at some Dollar Tree DIYs. And just use your hands.
Yeah.
Use your hands.
It's fun to make stuff. You know, I feel if all that passion that you feel like anytime you feel like you want to like write a think piece, attacking somebody online or whatever it is, or being like, it's not fair. I want you to just take a moment and then like, it's like divert your attention. It's like, you know,
draw.
Literally. Go do anything creative. Find some other outlet besides typing something on your Twitter Notes app or whatever and posting it online.
Like, dude. But yeah, so those are our thoughts recently.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have edited the why were you yelling form. I would like to get back to doing stories. I think that would be fun. I have limited the characters, so we're just gonna play with that. And
it has to be shorter. Some of them are novel length. And
we were just dealing with some that were so long that it's like, I can't, it's too much.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you have a story of why you were yelling and you want us to read it and tell us whether you should have been yelling or not, you can go to the Google form that's in the description and the link in our bio on Instagram. Mm-hmm. And you can leave us a story there and we will read it and tell you if you should have been yelling, if anybody should have been yelling, and give you advice depending on what the story is.
Yeah.
Are we saying that we should be giving you advice? No. But do we like to? Yes. Should we be held responsible? No. No. Absolutely not. No.
Okay. Well, we'll end it there.
Yeah.
And we'll talk at you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.